After enduring the clergy abuse scandal of minors, the Church has taken three main steps for prevention and protection. The selection process of seminarians is more rigorous. The laws governing the removal of a priest from ministry have changed, and prevention education has been implemented. After deciding that I was called to be a priest, I began the rigorous selection process. The diocese required 8 character references, a letter from my pastor, 46 pages of application, a battery of medical tests, a psychological evaluation, a criminal background check, and interviews with the vocations director, bishop, and 3 panels at the seminary. During seminary, we routinely underwent both staff and peer reviews. Overall, I'd say becoming a priest was the most intimidating job interview I ever had. The U.S. bishops met in 2002 and produced the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People. First, it implemented a zero-tolerance policy for all cases involving minors. Priests were removed from ministry and prosecuted criminally. Second, background checks are run on all clergy, employees, and volunteers. Third, all clergy, employees, and volunteers undergo training for detection and prevention of sex abuse. Fourth, a national review board conducts routine audits of programs in every diocese, parish, and school. And recently, lay-led regional boards are being set up to receive and investigate accusations brought against bishops for either abuse or dereliction of duty. The result has been dramatic. In the Attorney General's report from Pennsylvania, only 2 crimes were committed after 2002. The Catholic Church is the first to put into place these safe environment measures, which should be applied to other churches, our public education system, and sports programs to protect all of our youth. Before finding a spiritual path forward, what was the heart of the problem? Father Richard Newhouse believes that this whole crisis is due to a lack of fidelity in 3 areas. First, the fidelity of the clergy to their solemn vows to be shepherds. Pope St. Gregory the Great said, "No one does more harm in the church than he who, having the title or rank of holiness, acts evilly." Second, the fidelity of bishops to properly govern and discipline the clergy. Why? The reasons vary from incompetence to willfully hiding a crime, from treating this behavior as a sin instead of a sickness, to receiving advice from the field of psychology that priests could be treated and returned to ministry. Third, the fidelity of the lay people to hold the clergy responsible for crimes committed. Newhouse said at times people held priests up on a pedestal, resulting in the law not being enforced and charges never being brought. If fidelity was the problem across the board, then we all need to grow in it. But how? St. John Paul II answered, "All the Christian faithful, of whatever state or rank, are called to the fullness of the Christian life and to the perfection of charity." In other words, he asked, "Do you wish to become holy?" St. Paul wrote, "God chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him." To be holy is not primarily a matter of how many rosaries we say or how much charitable activity we do, but rather, as St. Teresa of Avila said, holiness means bringing our wills into union with God's will. This presupposes effort and discipline on our part. For St. Teresa of Lisieux said, "You cannot be half a saint. You must be a whole saint, or no saint at all." When our will dominates God's will, we get into the problems we are facing. St. Peter learned this lesson when he tried to prevent Jesus from walking the way of the cross. And Jesus sternly said, "Get behind me, Satan." We must never put ourselves in front of the Lord. A disciple is a follower and imitator of Christ. For what child directs the parent? What clay resists the hands of the potter? What soul would want to remain closed when Jesus said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, Then I will enter his house and dine with him, and he with me. We have everything to gain by answering the call to holiness, and everything to lose by ignoring the interior life within us. For St. Ignatius of Loyola said, "Few souls understand what God would accomplish in them if they were to abandon themselves unreservedly to him and allow his grace to mold them." I close with one last perspective from Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen. The Church no more expected to have perfect Catholics than our Lord expected to have perfect apostles. Catholics may be bad, but that does not prove Catholicism is wicked. If Catholics are bad, it is not because they are Catholics. It is because they are not. Faith increases their responsibility, but it does not force obedience. It increases blame, but it does not prevent sin. The very horror the world expresses at the fall of a Catholic is the measure of the high virtue it expected of him. When scandals come, it is not the faith, but the hearts of men that need to be cleansed and purged.